Hey guys, this is Nathan from RunDreamAchieve.com. Hope you guys are all having a great week of training. Today's topic is how to run under a 4:30 mile. So running under 4 minutes and 30 seconds for the mile, you had better have done your homework. It takes a great amount of anaerobic capability to be able to run that at that pace. You're talking about running around 67 seconds per quarter for 4 laps in a row with no break in between. So, the same philosophy that I followed running the marathon is the same philosophy really that I was focusing on even when I was in high school running the mile. I was always focused on trying to run faster than I was focusing on competing at. So I knew, when I first started running the mile in 1992 as a freshman in high school, the first time I ran it in 5 minutes, I ran it in 5 minutes and 30 seconds, lowered it down to 5:09 by the end of my freshman year. My sophomore year, I lowered it to 4:38. Junior year, ran 4:32. And then by the end of my senior year, I ended up running 4:25. And the fastest I've ever run for the distance is 4 minutes and 22 seconds. That was a time trial that my coach did for us at the University of Florida when we were down there at in Gainesville. We did an all-out mile down there, and our top guy ran a 4:19. I ran 4:22. So I understand how tough this is. You're not going to run under 4 minutes and 30 seconds unless you're focused heavily on your overall speed, working on endurance, and working on stamina, because you have to be able to withstand quite a high amount of lactic acid buildup when it comes to the mile. It's such a highly anaerobic event as opposed to the marathon, where you can run much slower for longer periods of time. And so it's a totally different event. The marathon, as you know, is much more aerobic, whereas the mile is very highly anaerobic. So running at these particular paces, you have to be in phenomenal anaerobic shape. A sub 4:30 mile really puts you in a very high level capability. There are only so many, even high school collegiate athletes as well, that can run under that particular pace for 1 mile. So what we focus on with the Run Dream Achieve training programs is focusing on periodization. So the same type of philosophy that I followed in college, I still up to the present day still follow regarding training for the mile and teaching my clients what it takes to run faster over any distance. So for the mile, you don't need to run very high mileage in regards to the mile. Okay, it's really based on your quality over the quantity. You could run under a 4:30 mile on anywhere from 30 to 50 miles a week, but you obviously have to have a certain amount of a combination of talent as well as work ethic, and probably even more work ethic than talent. What I focus on and what I really focus on in terms of preparing for a sub 4 mile is getting those mile repetitions down to around 68 to 69 seconds per quarter. If you can get those to anywhere from doing 8 to 16 reps at that particular pace, with a 2-minute rest earlier on in your training, and then lowering the recovery time down to around 1 minute, you're going to be set for success. Now, you don't start off at 68 to 69. Let me say that as well. I would probably start closer to around 1:14 to 1:15 seconds per quarter if you're doing quarters on the track. If you're doing Ks, I would start off earlier in the season running around 3 minutes and 5 seconds to around 3 minutes and 7 seconds per rep. And again, giving yourself a little bit more time after each one of those repetitions. And then as you become much more fit, I would focus more on lowering those repetitions down to around 2 minutes and 50 to 2 minutes and 52 seconds per kilometer. So again, and then giving yourself 1 minute rest in between each one of those reps. So if you're doing those types of workouts on top of like repeat 800s, these are VO2 max workouts. These are the type of workouts where you're only going to be able to spend a few seconds to a few minutes at these particular efforts. There are paces that are much faster than your goal race pace in this case. So you need to be able to hold around between 67 to 68 seconds per quarter 4 times in a row. So you do want to spend some time training at paces that are right around that pace, but for higher volumes, higher repetitions, and then with very minimal rest in between each rep. So doing those types of VO2 max workouts on top of longer duration anaerobic threshold runs. So doing, for the mile, you don't need to do, 10 mile anaerobic threshold runs or AT runs, tempo runs. But you can do, if you can get those branched out to around 3 to 4 miles in length and train at your anaerobic threshold, that's the point where you're running, around 20 to 30 seconds slower than your sub 430 marathon or sub 430 mile pace, or even slower. But again, training at your anaerobic threshold, that's the point where we start to build up lactic acid in the bloodstream. So the longer you can spend at that particular effort, the better. On top of extending out the duration of your long runs as well. So if you're a miler and you're focused mainly on middle distance running, you're still going to build a great amount of strength and stamina from doing those long runs. Now, when I talk about training for the marathon and longer races, 10K up to the marathon, I focus on varying up the paces of your long runs. Spending a segment of those long runs, whether it be if you're doing like a 15-mile run, doing between 5 and 7 miles of that 15-mile run at closer to around 85 to 88% of your maximum heart rate. So that is quality running. When I was training for the marathon and I was at my very fittest, when I was running at around 85 to 88% of my maximum heart rate, it was around 160 beats per minute, but I'd be running at around 520s to 540 pace per mile pace at 6,000 feet altitude. So I was very, very fit, but it was also, I didn't just jump into being able to do those types of long runs. I would build up, obviously we focus on building the base. It's the same with a mile. You start building your base mileage, and then gradually as you get fitter and fitter, you extend longer periods of time that you're training at a higher heart rate for that long run. That is going to make you very strong for the mile as well. To break 4 minutes and 30 seconds for the mile, like I said, you have got to be in phenomenal anaerobic shape. This is a very fast time. It's a time that highly competitive athletes achieve, but only a few achieve this. Like I said, it took me really until my senior year in high school to break the 4 minute and 30 second mile barrier. I had as one of my goals to break the 4 minute mile. Didn't quite have that type of leg speed, but I did end up running 4 minutes and 22 seconds. So I can attest to this and can tell you that how difficult it is and how sharp you have to be. If you're seeking this particular time for the mile, focus on doing, getting those mile repetitions down to around, to the point where you can do 5 to 6 1 mile repetitions at around 450 to 455 per mile repetition, with around 3 minutes to 2 to 3 minutes rest in between. So early on, you may start off at around 5 minutes per rep and giving yourself 4 minutes rest. But as you get really fit and right to the point where you're ready to break that 4 minute and 30 second mile, if you can do 5 to 6 1 mile repetitions on the track at around 455 to 457, you are golden. You are ready to go. I mean, that's extremely, it shows that you're very capable of being able to handle those very high level intensities for those 4 laps. And again, it's a mental game too. The mile is such a, you have to be so strong mentally as well. The faster you're trying to run, the faster you're trying to run, the more it's going to be required out of you. And you have to visualize success. You have to visualize and mentally train for the mile as well. It's over like that, but at the same time, you have to see it here in your mind first. You have to achieve what you're wanting to do. If you're trying to break a 4 minute, 30 minute mile, you have to see that in your mind's eye first. And if you're still trying to break 5 minutes, you have to focus on one step at a time. Get to a point where just because you're at 5 minutes and 30 seconds right now doesn't mean you can't break a 4 minute and 30 second mile. It just may take you several months. It may take you several years to get to this point. But if you're consistent and focused enough, it will happen. Now, I do have sub 5 minute mile training plans on RunDreamAchieve.com, as well as 5 minute, 6 minute, and 7 minute training plans. So regardless where you're currently at in your mile preparation, whether you're a 7 minute miler, 6 minute miler, 5 minute miler, or you're trying to run under 4 minutes and 30 seconds, There are definitely resources there for you, so definitely check those out, as well as below these videos, any of my videos. And feel free to leave me a comment as well if there's anything I can help you out with in terms of the mile. Again, you do have to train at paces that are much faster than 4 minutes and 30 seconds to get 4 minutes and 30, to be able to sustain that effort for 4 laps. So it's going to be uncomfortable. You're gonna have to get to a point where you can do repeat 200s at around 30 to 34 seconds per rep, and get to a point where you can do, you know, between 8 and 12 200s at that particular effort with around 60 seconds rest in between. So again, the training plans, we start off gradually. We don't just jump into these really high intensity workouts. We gradually get you in shape before we start focusing on higher intensities and lower rest. So again, there's no rest in the mile. A 4 minute and 30 second mile, like I said, you've got to be able to handle very high amounts of lactic acid efficiently. And to do that you have to do a combination of a lot of different things. Long runs, training at paces that are far faster than 4:30 pace. Even when I was in high school, I would spend a lot of time training around 4 minute mile pace. So I know that was a big part of me eventually running 4:25 when I was in high school. Again, I was always focusing on running at paces that were much, much faster than I really had ever planned on running for the mile. So spend some time doing some repeat 200s at around, like I said, between 30 and 34 seconds, around there. And doing those mile repeats, longer duration efforts of your anaerobic threshold runs. Again, training at around your anaerobic threshold is, if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, I'm a big advocate of heart rate monitor training. You want to run that heart rate, you want to keep your heart rate around 165 to 174 beats a minute. And it's going to depend on your age. There are many different ways to get your maximum heart rate, but you know, a good estimate, and this is just a round guess, is to subtract your age by 220, and then take whatever that max heart rate is, take around 85% of that maximum heart rate, and then spend some time during your long run running at that effort. Now, if it's hot out, your heart rate's going to be much, much higher. So heart rate monitor is important, training is very important, but at the same time, the weather conditions also play a big factor in how your heart rate is going to be. If it's cold out, your heart rate's going to be much lower. If it's hot out, it's going to be much higher, because obviously your body's trying to stay cool, and you're sweating more, and your heart rate's much higher as well. So again, heart rate monitor training is important, but it's just a gauge. You want to definitely, with the mile especially, you want to go off the feel. If you don't have a heart rate monitor and you're wanting to do a tempo run should be comfortably hard. You shouldn't be able to necessarily have a conversation while you're running at that particular effort, but that is around the type of effort you want to be focused on when you're running your tempo runs. And get that tempo run out to around 3 to 4 miles, preferably around 4 miles when you're training for the mile. So again, training at VO2 max, so your maximum oxygen uptake, whether that's repeat 200s on the track, repeat miles, 2 miles on the track, workouts like that. Do 1 VO2 max workout per week, and this is how we have the training plan set up as well. Every 3 weeks should be a recovery week. You should allot time so you can recover, so you can get to a point where you're under that sub 4:30 mile barrier eventually. It's not going to come overnight. I can tell you from experience, you're going to have to be on your A game to run this fast. Okay, if your best mile right now is 5:45, don't roll out a sub 4:30 mile. It's definitely still doable. If you're at 5 minutes, maybe you're at 4:55, still doable. Obviously, the faster you are and the closer you are to this barrier, the higher chance you have of doing it. But if you're further away, keep grinding, stay focused out there on the roads and on the track. If you want to invest in yourself, you want to bypass the mistakes of other athletes, and you want a plan that tells you exactly what you need to be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, then definitely check out the training programs as well. And let me know if there's anything else I can help you out with. This is, like I said, it's a very, very, very fast time, very hard to do. I only did it myself only a few times in my career, and I never so much was a miler. I was more of a distance runner, but definitely the faster you can run at the mile as well, the better prepared you're going to be for running the 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon events as well. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any other questions about the mile, whether that's breaking 6 minutes, 7, 5 minutes, or even running under 4 minutes and 30 seconds, leave me a comment below. If you appreciate these videos, please give me a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. I appreciate it as well. And I love hearing from you all. So definitely keep leaving your comments, and I'll definitely keep responding as well. So I'll talk to you all in the next video, and have a great day.